All right, diving straight into it. All right, so this game overall, how did I feel about it? All right, going through every single player. Honestly, I don't really care. I feel like everyone played okay. Everyone did fine. Wemby looked tired, but at the end of the day, I mean, he gave you 31 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. That's a bad Wemby. His percentages were really good. 5 for 8 from 3. Like, there's nothing to really say about it. De'Aaron Fox was great, especially down the stretch. Because it didn't feel like he had 30 points, but I guess it literally did a lot of that come in the fourth quarter? Hold on. I don't want to be stupid here. Let's see. Let's go to fourth. Control, fine. De'Aaron. Okay, never mind. Let's just do Fox. All right, he ends the game for Steph Castle, and what happens? Got a shooting foul, made a pull-up. That's 2 points. Another 2 points. Another 2 points. So that's 6. 7, 9, 10. Okay, so he literally gave you about 10 points in the fourth quarter. So yeah, so a decent chunk of it, almost half of his points came in the fourth quarter. But hey, he's very clutch. That's great. I just don't want us to have to lean on this, right? It felt like this was the same issue we had a few years ago where we had some vets on the team. Pop really leaned in on the vets, which made sense at the time only because we didn't have any like true stars. Like we didn't have a Wemby or whatnot that's going to develop into something crazy. So we just leaned on these vets and we were pretty bad. We were a pretty bad team. Maybe slightly below mediocre team, and they would just kind of save us by the end of it. And I really don't want that to happen here, and it doesn't have to happen here. So like I said, everyone overall did fine, for all things considered. I don't think that anyone was just absolutely awful. There was no player that I look at and I'm like, oh my goodness, they should have had much better. Like I just didn't feel that way. But how do I feel though? I feel like Mitch Johnson has been pretty awful. Or wait, what? That is so random. I'm eating Superman ice cream right now. That is so random. Oh, Keldon. Yeah, Keldon did horrible, but like that's like every game, y'all. I mean, offensively, he'll have games that look pretty decent, and I'll come out and like, oh, okay, yeah, you did fine offensively, but he's just kind of making up for his bad defense. It's always like a catch-up game. Mitch Johnson almost kills my excitement. I've seen people say that he should be fired, and I don't agree with that because he's an assistant coach. It's not like he applied for the head coaching job or, he's supposed to be the coach right now or anything like that. He's probably a very great assistant. Usually when Pop puts the people around him, they're really great minds and they bring something to the team. So I think I would just kind of leave it up to him, like what he wants to do, whether he wants to explore other coaching opportunities as a head coach for other teams or if he just wants to continue with us. But I definitely think he should come back if he's down to stay. Like he should come back. But as a head coach right now, it just seems like he's completely leaning on Chris Paul and the other vets. And I don't like it. And I know young coaches do this often, but it's getting to the point where it's detrimental. We're winning in spite of the lineups. It makes no sense. Now, I know that Biyombo just got with the team, and usually I would sit back and say, okay, well, we can wait till the second or third game, for him to, get used to being around the Spurs facility. Or he's not even with the Spurs facility. He'll be on the road. But just getting used to everything. But he's on a 10-day contract. So why not play him? We have him for less than 2 weeks currently. So why not just play him? July said he's on a 10-day contract. At least give him a few. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're on a 10-day contract. Just play him. There's what do you? He's doing this very similar to how he does his timeouts. He just holds on to them. What are you holding on to? What are you worried about? I don't get it. I'll say this again, and people don't necessarily agree with me on this, but Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham not seeing any minutes whatsoever is ridiculous. You need to find a way to be a little bit more creative with your lineups here. Was it necessary? This game, we all watched the game. Was it necessary for Chris Paul? We'll allow the eye test to do the work here. Was it necessary for Chris Paul to have 33 minutes in this game? This did not feel like a 33-minute game for Chris Paul that we needed him in the game that long. He was giving up open threes. I mean, yeah, he had 9 assists, but I have no doubt in my mind that you would have just got that from De'Aaron Fox. And the biggest issue that I have with these lineups is this starting lineup makes no sense whatsoever. You're not leaning on your identity. Your identity as a team is defense, or at least it should be, with Victor Wembanyama and Sohan being anchors, and with Steph Castle being a really good defender. You're not leaning on that aspect. As far as scoring-wise and pace and leadership, I guess leadership possibly, but pace makes no sense. Chris Paul constantly wants to slow the game down, while De'Aaron Fox wants to go 150 miles per hour. You have two ideologies combating each other mid-game, and I don't mean that like is controversy or controversial or confrontation. That's what I meant to say. I don't think there's confrontation between the two, but you can obviously see it's very blatant that De'Aaron Fox is getting down the court. It just seems like you're making extra steps for no reason. Like, you give Chris Paul the ball, he runs the offense, he slows it down, and he inevitably ends up giving it to De'Aaron Fox anyways on a cut, or him getting the ball and just trying to make something happen. And it's just like, okay, we just wasted time on the clock, where if De'Aaron Fox was bringing the ball down the court, if he saw any type of opening, he would have took it immediately. I mean, for good God, man, free throw attempt 18. He took 18. That's how often he was trying to go downhill and get in that paint. He took 18 free throws. I don't get why we're playing them together. I don't think you get a benefit defensively. You don't get a benefit offensively. I don't know what we're doing. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is you're playing politics with the lineup, where Chris Paul, he was promised that he would get a plethora amount of minutes, which is fine. I think he should still get minutes, but I don't know why the promise is you have to start. He shouldn't have to start. It makes no sense. You need to lean on your identity, and you need to lean on the fact that you have multiple point guards. What was the point of getting rid of Trey Jones? If Chris Paul was just going to start, then what was the point of getting rid of Trey Jones? And I love Steph Castle, but Steph Castle is not ready to be a primary point guard. And we're running lineups out there where Steph Castle has to be the primary facilitator. And I don't understand that when you have Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox on the team. And I understand to a degree that Jeremy Sohan has to run center right now. It just is what it is. He'll look much better, even though he had a good game. He'll look much better when he's in his natural position. He looked good when he was out there with Wemby. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a lineup out there that doesn't have a point guard, or Steph Castle's the main point guard. You don't have to do that. Put Steph out there with Chris. I don't get it. Nothing makes sense. It doesn't make sense from the eye test. It doesn't make sense statistically. Now, it has improved because of this game slightly. But I mean, it's still not enough, right? Like Kendrick Lamar is not enough. Look at this. 120 offensive rating to 122 defensive rating. Don't quite get it. This is the starting lineup, mind you. 49 minutes of this with a net rating of -2. Makes no sense whatsoever. Makes no sense whatsoever. I was trying to find the other one. There was one with Sohan and Wemby. It looks like it got moved around a little bit. But here's another starting lineup. Chris Paul, not starting lineup, but just lineup in general. Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, which I don't like him being out there with with Paul, but the inclusion of Sohan gets your defensive rating at an 88.9. Where is the one with Sohan and Wemby? Is it this one? Yeah, this one. I like this one. You can kind of hide Keldon a little bit. I don't like not having a point guard, so you can probably replace Keldon with Chris Paul, honestly, and I'll be okay with it. But you got Steph Castle, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama, and defensive rating at 82. So you lose quite a bit of your offensive rating, but your defense is way better. But I just think the Spurs should just lean on their defensive identity. But yeah, but at the end of the day, sorry, I can't speak. Biyombo not playing is also just insane. When you don't have him for that long, for the time being, just throw him out there. I'm getting tired of seeing these DNP coaches' decisions. Spurs will never show their hand before playoff contention. You should know this. Playoff contention? We're talking playoffs? We almost lost to the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards are 9-44. Maybe you should show your hand a little bit more. Maybe you should show the whole deck. No way. I want to believe that we can make the playoffs, right? But like, I'm at the point now where after this game, I'm depleted. I don't know. I just think it's pretty obvious that this is a bad starting lineup. It's a lineup that doesn't make sense. Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox, they run the offense completely different. And you're trying to do this point guard by committee, and I don't get it. I don't know why you have to do this. You don't have to do it. You got De'Aaron Fox. Either send De'Aaron Fox or Chris Paul to the bench. If Chris Paul has to start no matter what, then De'Aaron Fox needs to go to the bench. Everyone knows that that's stupid. So they're not going to do that. Chris Paul needs to be moved. He needs to be moved. And I'm assuming Sohan is still on minutes restriction. I'm assuming. But Malachi and Blake not playing at all is kind of crazy. I would feel more, I know this might sound crazy, but I would feel more comfortable with Malachi or Blake Wesley if you're going to go with this awful lineup, them getting minutes and being able to run the offense at times. Blake Wesley's actually pretty decent at it. And Malachi is a good pick and roll ball handler. So I don't think Sohan's on minutes restriction. I think he just benched him. Are you serious? I thought it was the minutes restriction thing from the injury. Then that makes it even worse. There's no reason Sohan should not be getting minutes. You can say what you want, but there's no reason. People that think Sohan is bad or just don't know basketball. Like, there's no reason. Barnes should stay in the starting lineup. If Sohan needs to start, then put Vassell on the bench and put Barnes at small forward. No. This is what the lineup should be. This is what the lineup should be. It should be De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Sohan, Victor Wembanyama. You have a very balanced team. You have someone who can get to the rim in De'Aaron Fox and a pick and roll player, in which we have Jeremy Sohan, who's top 3 and pick and roll finishes. You have De'Aaron Fox, one of the best pick and roll playmakers in the NBA. You have Victor Wembanyama, who can stretch the floor. You have Sohan, who can cut extraordinarily well. You have Devin Vassell, who can stretch the floor. And you have Harrison Barnes, who can stretch the floor. You have a pretty balanced team. And defensively, you're pretty good. Devin Vassell isn't a great on-ball defender. Like, he's not the best on-ball defender. He's not a bad one. But he's really good in the lanes. You got De'Aaron Fox, who plays okay defense. You know, he's not crazy, but he's an okay defender. And then you have two really great defenders in Vic and Sohan. And then you have Harrison Barnes, who, plays old man defense. I'll say that. It was clear as day when we had Sohan next to Wemby what the difference is. It's crazy, bro. You should just start off with your best lineup. Keeping Chris Paul, it just feels like you're forcing it. I don't want to win in spite of coaching. I want to win because of coaching. And at this point, I don't want to just sit back and just blame the players, because I would like for our coaching staff to put us in the best position to win. Keldon Johnson putrid. Keldon Johnson was horrible, but I didn't have my expectations super high, or I never had my expectations that high. He so badly wants Sohan at the 5, and I think you're limiting what he does when you do that. Well, Sohan, I guess that's a double-edged sword when it comes to him, because he's so versatile that, you can kind of experiment a little bit. Like, let's see if he can run a little bit of point. And I think that did help him. I think the Sohan experiment at point actually did help him. I think he's seeing way more things on the court. It definitely helped his IQ, and he already had a high basketball IQ. And then run him as center, I think that's more because of necessity. Like, I think we just kind of have to do that. I don't think it's a experiment or anything. Agreed, but second unit would suffer. Patience, Danielson. Who's Daniel? Is that a reference? Is that a reference to something? I don't think our second unit suffers by doing that. You don't have to, if you take De'Aaron Fox out, you put in Chris Paul, I don't think that you suffer. I think you actually add on to the depth of doing that. Right now, you're forcing a lot of players in positions that are quite uncomfortable, right? Steph Castle he can on occasion, but he can't run an offense by himself yet. There's no point in that. Have him come in with Chris Paul. And I don't think you suffer that much. And Sohan has been shown to be able to play lots of minutes, and if he's not on minutes restriction, then this is inexcusable. 21 minutes for your second best defender is absolutely asinine. It makes no sense. I 100% think Jeremy is versatile, but I think he's most effective when you let Jeremy be Jeremy. Of course. I think putting him in that starting lineup and putting him at the power forward will allow Jeremy to be Jeremy. My biggest issue with all this, I saw some really bad matchups out there, but I think it starts with this. It starts with putting Chris Paul in the starting lineup. I don't get it. I can't think of one good reason to do that. And if you're going to do that, then throw De'Aaron Fox on the bench. And everyone knows that's a bad move. Just trying to play both sides here. What was the point? It makes me believe that if we had another veteran, another point guard veteran that the Spurs added, they would take Devin Vassell out of the starting lineup and just play 3 point guards. I don't get this. De'Aaron Fox isn't a great shooting guard. He's fine, but I don't think he's a great shooting guard. We benefit more with the ball in his hands, putting pressure on the rim. Yeah, that too. Chris Paul keeps leaving his man open on the perimeter. I don't understand why he's helping in the paint, respectfully. Doesn't make a lot of sense. 33 minutes in this game in particular Chris Paul shouldn't have had 33 minutes, y'all. I'm sorry. I watched it. I tried to pay attention to his impact. 33 minutes was not that was not worth it. Chris Paul, a Hall of Famer, he ain't listening. Okay, with all due respect, if Chris Paul's not listening, then cut him. Real talk. If it's like that, you buy him out. If our coaching staff can't say, hey, Chris, this is actually what help us win, you go to the bench. And I'm not saying Chris Paul's doing this, right? This is all hypothetical, but just being honest with you. If they come to Chris Paul and say, hey, we need you to come off the bench, that'll actually help us towards winning, and he says, no, I don't want to do that, then you buy him out. Just buy him out. I don't care anymore. Just buy him out. What good is that going to do? He'll be so good off the bench. It just makes the most sense. We have so much depth that way. And also, if you're afraid to play Malachi, afraid to play Blake Wesley, I mean, you should feel a little bit more comfortable playing them with Chris Paul on the court, I would think. I don't know. Doing a 3-guard lineup of Fox, CP3, Castle is a disservice to all 3 players. I agree. I don't want to roll with that. I'm okay with Castle being out there with Chris Paul, but shoot, even if you said I want Sohan to stay on the bench, then we need to figure something out. Just add something to this team, because right now we're lacking offense with the starting lineup and we're lacking defense. Helping the offense would be taking Chris Paul out of the lineup, because him and De'Aaron Fox, they just play 2 different types of games. They run the offense completely different. So take Chris Paul out, and even if you plugged in, which I don't want to do this, I think even if you plugged in Julian Champagnie and just let De'Aaron Fox run the offense, you have better offense. I don't want to do that though. I will want either Steph Castle or Jeremy Sohan to start and add on to that defense. Too late in the season, Chris Paul is going to finish starting. He'll most likely be gone next season unless he accepts the bench. He needs to accept that bench. I don't even know if it's been brought up, honestly. I don't even know if Mitch Johnson has even thought to bring that up. Castle should be starting. Either way, Castle or Sohan should be starting. It doesn't really matter to me. I just think either one makes the offense, actually, I'll just say offense and defense better. Just by virtue of De'Aaron Fox being able to run it. It's evident that Mitch is too scared to bench Chris Paul. I think Mitch Johnson is just too comfortable with his guys. I think he's just too comfortable. There's no reason you should barely win against the Washington Wizards. Mitch is 38. Chris Paul is 39. That is kind of crazy. Sonority. Chris Paul slapping him in the locker room. If Chris Paul doing all that, then he needs to bounce. It's time to buy him out. Castle is just developing at a rapid rate, and I don't know how he doesn't start. His 3-point improvement should show that. I don't know. How do you know Mitch makes those lineup decisions? Oh my goodness. And who makes them? That's even a bigger problem. He's interim head coach right now. He should be making lineup decisions. That's like bare minimum as a coach to make lineup decisions. Pop does. You think Pop is okay, just from us knowing Pop for so long, at least from, outside looking in, I don't really get the vibe that Pop would do that. I think Pop would give Mitch Johnson some leniency and let him coach the way that he wants to coach while he's literally recovering from a stroke. I don't think Pop is doing all that. Pop changed the starting lineup all the time. Pop also played Malachi and Blake Wesley. So that's another reason why I'm like, this is probably Mitch. He just doesn't feel comfortable with certain lineups. It's very evident what he's doing here. Like, look at who plays. Look who gets minutes. Look at this game. Victor Wembanyama, that's a safe bet, right? He's going to get a lot of minutes. That's easy. Chris Paul, he's a veteran. He gets minutes. De'Aaron Fox, he's a veteran. He gets minutes, which he needs them right now. Devin Vassell, he's been with the team pretty long, so he gets minutes. Harrison Barnes, he gets minutes. He's a vet. Then everyone else is just, they're kind of just there, And then Keldon, he's just, Keldon's hard to play sometimes for defensive purposes. So it just kind of matters. He's like a day-to-day. Like if Keldon's on that day, then he gets more minutes. But yeah, it's very evident what he's doing. I think he just got too comfortable. Young coaches usually do that. He played Malachi when Vassell was injured. When was that? How far back are we going, my man? Hold on. Guys, when did Pop have his When did Pop have his stroke? You guys know? I think October. Okay, so we went in October. He played him a little bit. I wish this showed all the games that we had so we could see all the games he didn't play. Yeah, it's just as time went on, he got more and more comfortable with his guys. He's tightened up his lineup, almost like we're in the playoffs. Like he's treating it like we're in the playoffs. No, he's barely played. You got November here. You got a few games over 15 minutes. And then the month of December, you got 2 games over 15 minutes. Everything else seems like it's just garbage time. And then you have January, that's nothing but garbage time. He's barely played. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 9 games on this long season that Malachi Branham has gotten more than 15 minutes. And just about the rest of it is garbage time. You can find a way to implement him into the offense. He's an NBA player. He's not an end of the bench third stringer. I don't think that. I think he's talented enough that you could find a use for him. At the very least, it'll be good for, other guys to be able to rest a little bit. Malachi showed me he had improved defense and was efficient. He could definitely be implemented. Let's not get into the mindset. If Keldon, as streaky and as bad as he's been as far as shooting, he's one of the worst outside shooters in the NBA. That's not me just saying that or being hyperbolic. Literally, he is. Statistically, he is. If you can find use for Keldon, which I agree, I think you can find use for Keldon on this roster for now, right? There's no doubt in my mind that you can find use for Malachi Branham, a very good three-point shooter. The times he has played this season, over 30 games played, 40% from 3. Now, obviously, that would go down a little bit. I think that he would come back down to earth, maybe like 36, 35. But he's nearly a 40% three-point shooter on the season right now. But like I said, he takes more, he'll come back down to earth. But last season, he was 35. You don't have any, use for him? I don't buy that. And I really don't buy Blake Wesley. As many times as our perimeter defense looked rusty, that you couldn't find any minutes for him either. I don't know. Can't wait to be free from Malachi talks by the time of the trade. Well, that's not even my main focus here. My main problem are these lineups. Whether you play Malachi or not, if you just play the guys that you have, that's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. But in this game, 33 minutes is crazy for Chris. That was not necessary. You want to have a 12-man rotation? No, you don't have to have a 12-man rotation. I'm just saying this rotation right here is terrible. These lineups are terrible. It's like we're going through the most least optimal lineups and running it. This right here, Chris Paul, De'Aaron Fox, Barnes, Vassell, and Wemby, a total of 49 minutes over the period of 4 games. That's the group that you ran the most. Doesn't make sense to me. It's just bad. I don't know what to say. It's just bad. You can disagree with the Malachi and Wesley stuff. I can care less. I don't care about them, necessarily playing or not. I think it's just the overall mindset that our coaching staff has right now, where you're only going to play your guys. And the worst part about all of this is even if you did try to implement them right now, they're going to look bad. They haven't played. I have the vibe that he will play them, they will look bad, and then we'll never see him ever again. Just throw him in the void. Yeah, they're bad. Malachi and Wesley are not the answer. I'm not saying they're the answer. I'm not saying Malachi and Blake plays and then all of a sudden we start winning more games. That's not the point. The point is just utilizing your roster to the best of your ability. And right now, hanging on to this isn't working. It's ugly. It's ugly basketball. Today was ugly basketball. Mamu getting minutes. You couldn't get any rebounds when Mamu was out there. You know, so he didn't play that long. Oh, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that bad news. Atlanta. Magic couldn't take care of business? Is this all Trae Young? Dude, they need to sit Trae Young for the season. They're obviously planning to trade him, right? They need to sit that man. God, they're 8th seed right now. Let's see. All right, we beat them, which was great. I didn't realize they beat the Bucks. They beat the Wizards. And they beat the Magic. Good God. They did look like a competitive team versus us, though. All right, well, they still got some tough ones. Gosh, they need to sit Trae Young. They won 2 in a row. They won 3 in a row, my friend. They won 3 in a row. Hawks got better. Yeah, they played us and all of a sudden they got better. No Hunter, no problem. That's very scary. But hopefully it catch up to him. It should catch up to him soon. The rest of their schedule isn't the easiest. There's a few easy games in here, but it's not the easiest. Every team looks competitive versus us. That's why you need to lean on your identity. All of our efficiency, like the efficiency landscape, went down significantly over the course of the last 10 games. I don't know. Anyways, it's the end of the segment here. When will Biyombo play? Hopefully Wednesday. I mean, we only have him for a few hours. I don't understand how you have him on a 10-day contract and not play him day one when you desperately need a center. I don't get it. Just do it. Yeah, anyways.